Darrah Johnson competed on the 7th season in the Pearl Islands, where she finished in 4th place. Starting off slowly but soon working her way into the game, Darrah dominated the challenges after the merge, winning 3 individual immunity challenges before narrowly missing out in the final 3 after an unusual challenge choice saw the jury win immunity. I spoke to Darrah about the challenge that potentially cost her $1 million, her time as a mortician, as well as which contestant on her season was terrible and awful. Darrah, welcome to Survivor Oz.
Hello.
It's a massive pleasure to have you on the show. I will say we get a lot of people requesting to hear from you on this show, so I'm thrilled to be able to chat to you.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
You're the 7th person, actually, as well, from Pearl Islands to be on this show. So we're also getting very close to the halfway point of speaking to people from your season, which is it still remains a very popular season within the Survivor fan community, Darrah.
Oh, yeah, it's very popular around here, too.
And it's obviously nearly a decade since you've even been on the show. So does it surprise you that here I am chasing you down to even have a chat with you today about it?
No, surprisingly, I still get recognized, which is kind of a shock. Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow, that's really good. We like to hear about people from the older seasons, sort of in that first 10 seasons or so, that still get recognised, because I think it's obviously the period of Survivor where it was extremely popular. And I mean, you're coming from a season, as I said, that's very popular. And how many times a week, I suppose we could say, would you still get recognised from the show?
Oh, it's kind of funny, because I'm actually a hygienist now. I don't work as a mortician anymore, so I have patients that come in all the time they'll come in and see me, and then the next time they come in and see me, it's kind of like they recognize my name, and they kind of put 2 and 2 together and realize who I am. So then they kind of freak out because I'm cleaning their teeth. So yeah, it's still kind of they still recognize me. It's just shocking because I get patients from all over.
Yeah, it's amazing to think if it will ever end, though, Darrah. Because I mean, obviously we're about to enter the 25th season of Survivor, so it's still going strong, but I mean, it would just be amazing if maybe one day you kind of count the days where you don't get recognised.
I know, huh? Well, it's actually kind of weird because if I go to like to an airport or something, that's when you really get recognized. And so it's kind of weird because my husband played football for LSU and then played arena football, so he gets recognized. But then when we go somewhere, somebody recognizes me before they do him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be the one that's recognized, not you."
You got to fight over who's the biggest celebrity at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of funny when it's around our house.
bit of a power couple there, Darrah. Were you much of a fan of Survivor before you went on the show?
Actually, when I signed up for this show, I was trying to get on The Amazing Race.
Right.
And my partner backed out at the last minute. So I had just graduated from school and was looking for a job, and decided I was at work one day. I worked at the gym, and I would just filled out an application and did a video that weekend. I came home, and my mom's friend recorded me, and I made an audition tape, and we sent it in. And luckily, I got a call back, and then got on the show. So it was all kind of weird because I wasn't really going for Survivor, which I was a huge fan of it, but I kind of wanted to do The Amazing Race because I had a friend that wanted to do it with me. So that's kind of how I got into that.
Could have all worked out very differently. I've spoken to a few people from some of the seasons who've mentioned they were applying for Big Brother, but they were kind of pulled out and said, "Oh, look, would you like to try for Survivor instead?" So it's interesting how they kind of share around the TV shows and how different things could have turned out had you maybe gone on The Amazing Race with your friend.
I know. I would have loved it, and actually, I mean, I'm a huge fan of The Amazing Race, and of course, I'm a huge fan of Survivor because I was on it, and I love being outdoors. I'm an outdoors person, so that's kind of, both of those shows are kind of up my alley. Big Brother, no, that couldn't live in a house all the time with somebody. That's not for me.
Completely different. So you obviously still watch the show today, Darrah?
I do still watch it. I haven't done any charity events or anything like that in a long time because got married and have a baby now. So now I can kind of start getting back into them. But I do still watch the show, and I still, still keep in contact with some of the other, survivors through Facebook. And, of course, Ryan and Austin and Andrew and Tawana, we still keep in touch. Actually, OT's actually coming down to visit me in November. So
Brilliant.
He comes down probably once or twice a year. So, yeah, we're still real close.
Fantastic. well, we've spoken to Rhino, Savage and Tawana on this show. We haven't spoken to Austin yet, so you can feel free to pass on a good word, because he's somebody that we get a lot of people asking to hear from for obvious reasons, and we'd love to chat to him.
Oh yeah, he's an awesome guy. He is he's one of my best friends. Actually, we talk pretty much on a daily basis. So
it's amazing.
yeah,
I think
him and my husband actually become best friends. So it's pretty good.
That's good, because I think the thing with Austin that so many people obviously talk about him being the first person to quit. I mean, it's someone that, as I said, I'd love to chat to kind of hear more about that, because in talking to Rhino and talking to Andrew, we've obviously heard a bit more of, I suppose, what really led him towards quitting. And I think that...
it's kind of blown up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think, because, I mean, he's always going to have that stigma against him, isn't he? He's the first person to quit Survivor.
Right, yeah, it was blown out of proportion just a little bit.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that very soon with that, Darrah. But mentioning that you watched the show, obviously, still, given that you're on the 7th season, as I said, right to the 25th season, what are your thoughts on some of the changes that have developed over the period since you were on the show?
Oh, I think they get a little more food than what we got. I mean, of course, on ours, we started the season with nothing, no clothes, just the food we got in the village, which didn't last, maybe 3-4 days, if that. And then, of course, my tribe was not very good, so we didn't win very many reward challenges, so we didn't eat very much. But now, it looks like a lot more on the newer ones that they're getting a little more food and things like that. So that's a little different. And, of course, they're getting their clothes and all that, where we've been pretty much the only season that didn't get clothes and extra shoes or anything like that. So I feel like our season was one of the harder seasons.
And I can definitely imagine that makes it a whole different experience, because, as you said, you start the season with the clothes on your back, so you don't have that ability to change and to kind of, wear something that's not completely soaking wet. So I suppose that takes more of an emotional toll on you as well.
Right, and then, they let you bring a I forget what they call it. You get to bring an item, and I was going to bring a journal so I could write in every day. We didn't get that, and then we didn't get our extra pair of shoes and, our extra change of clothes or our swimsuits, which I did win that in the challenge, so I did get that, but not everybody did.
Yeah, I just remember the opening scene on the boat where you're all there thinking you're going to be in that promo shoot, and Jeff's like, nope, you're starting the game, get off the boat.
Yeah, exactly, and I actually was ready to go home before it even started because I was so sick from just the boat ride. I was so sick, and I was so ready to go home, and then he comes down and tells us the game's starting. So, and then I totally felt good after that.
Yes, indeed. It's also, you're saying about, Morgan tribe you're on didn't start off overly well, losing those first few challenges. How much then does something like that weigh on your mind and affect you, and how do you overcome that to try and push forward to win challenges?
Well, we just didn't have a strong tribe. We didn't have anybody that could really fish, so we really didn't. The other tribe was getting all, tons and tons of fish a day. So, they had tons of protein, and we didn't really have anything. We had the rice that we had bought in the village, and we were scraping mussels off the side of the rocks, and we were eating snails, but that's about all that we had. And once that ran out, we pretty much didn't really have anything. So we just didn't have a good, strong tribe to provide food. And then our challenges, we just didn't have people that were really strong in the water, some of them. So, that kind of hurt us a little bit. But all in all, we ended up being a very close tribe after a couple people got voted off. So then we just kind of, the stronger ones were left, so we pushed as hard as we could.
And I know when I'm talking to Andrew, he mentioned that a big factor in him really trying to turn things around was just Johnny Fairplay's constant remarks and comments, that it just really pissed him off so much that he wanted to beat the guys. Somebody like that on the other tribe is just obviously constantly a pain in the butt, just makes you want to shove his face in the sand more.
Well, yeah, after we had merged, and then I was the only one left on the merged tribe by myself, and I had no alliance. All my alliances were going home, and it was the four of us left. and I had done one the last 3 challenges in a row, and I knew that I would win that very last challenge. I knew I would, because it was either standing on something for a length of time. I was stronger than the last one that were left, and I knew that day. I had a feeling, because nobody was talking to me, and I just knew I was going home. And just so happened at tribal council that night, whenever they asked us questions on the history of Panama. I mean, I didn't study the history of Panama before I went, and so I mean, of course, nobody did. We're all guessing, and I just didn't guess very good. And I mean, yeah, John kind of screwed me over there at the end, because if I'd have won that challenge, then I definitely would have taken him with me to the final 2. So, so he didn't get he got 3rd place, where he would have gotten at least 2nd place with me. So, he apologized about it at one point, but it's so hard feelings. I mean, yeah, I was a little aggravated there for a while. I couldn't get over it, but life goes on.
That final challenge where you lost, well, the jury won, let's put it that way. It was just, I mean, it was the strangest of all things to have a challenge where the bloody jury wins. I mean, it's just saying frustrating, because you'd won 3 in a row. You were kicking everyone's asses.
Yeah.
You were going to be in that final 3. At that point, when they announced that challenge, do you just want to go over to Jeff Probst and Mark Burnett and just punch the crap out of them?
Yeah, because I knew right then I was going home. I knew I could not win that challenge when you're against a whole jury putting all their minds together against us by ourselves. I mean, I knew I was going home if I didn't win. I just knew, because especially when I didn't win that challenge, and then Jeff's like, okay, do y'all want to talk amongst yourselves? So who you're gonna send home tonight? And nobody talked, so I knew they had already discussed during the day that that it was me. So yeah, I didn't really care too much for that challenge.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine, because obviously the challenge beforehand, it seemed as though that Sandra had kind of gotten you and Lil together into a female alliance to get rid of Burton. So was there any sort of further discussion then as to, at that point, if you had have lost the challenge, getting rid of Johnny, or was it always the case that you were going no matter what that alliance kind of stood for?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely did not have anything for Lil. I just didn't think it was fair that they got to come back. I'm sure they didn't really get to eat, so they say anything they wanted when they left, but I just didn't think it was fair that they got to come back into the game. So me and Lil, didn't get along at all. Burton and I actually were pretty close friends, and we still talk. So I felt bad for Burton having to go home that early, because he was such a good player, and he was probably one of the best players on our entire show. So, I just wouldn't have taken Lil with me. I definitely would have taken John with me to the end.
And Sandra obviously winning. I mean, she's gone on to win Heroes vs. Villains, the only 2-time winner. We get a lot of questions whenever we have someone from your season on, Darrah, asking about Sandra. You voted to help her win. What are your thoughts on Sandra as a player? Do you consider her as one of the all-time greats?
Actually, when I was out there, I would have never thought. I kind of knew she was conniving a little bit, but I didn't really think, because she wasn't good in the water at all. She didn't swim very well. She wasn't good at challenges. She just was doing stuff behind people's back that nobody was really seeing. And she was good at that part. So once we got home and watched the show, and I saw what she was doing, it shocked me, because you just don't. There's so much going on during the day. You're trying to pay attention to who's running off and talking, and if they're talking about you or whatever. But I would have never thought that she would have won. Starting the show, I would have never thought that, because she wasn't a very good swimmer, and of course, every challenge is in the water. But yeah, she's one of the better players. She did do very well.
Very big.
Now,
yes.
yeah, I think the best player of all time. I know you're probably gonna be shocked to hear this, but I think Russell Hance was probably the best player ever to ever play the game.
Well, there you go. We'll get to, when we at the end of the interview, Darrah, that's actually one of our final 5 questions. But Russell he gets brought up a lot, I think, in terms of that question, because I know whether I'm talking to a Survivor contestant or a fan, you either love him or you hate him. But there is that strong opinion that he is obviously a very good player, even if you don't like the guy.
Oh yeah, he was one of my favorites. I pulled for him. He's just a very good player. He's probably the best that's ever played the game.
I've never been shy in speaking my admiration for the guy either, Darrah. A lot of listeners don't like the fact that I'm a Russell fan, but I'm joining you there and saying that the guy's pretty awesome.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's he's pretty good.
Yes, indeed.
He's very good.
Indeed. Well, we'll get to those other questions very shortly, but obviously we were speaking about the night Austin quitting before, and when we had Rhino on the show, he spoke a little bit about the tribal council in which he went home, in that it almost seemed as if Jeff was kind of talking him into quitting. Now, a lot of people asking us about that night he went home. Is there anything about that night that you wish to share about Austin going home? Was it more of a case of him wanting to be voted out, but Jeff kind of spoke him into quitting? And what other things did we not see that happened with Austin?
Well, I mean, during the day, earlier that day, he told us, you know, he wanted us to vote us off. Well, wanted us to vote him off. He just, I mean, he's a big guy, and we're not getting very much to eat. I mean, we're literally getting a handful of food a day, you know, and that's not a lot for a big guy. And you're out in this, you know, 100-degree weather, and, you know, he's just a big guy, and he had no energy, and he had 2 staph infections, and, you know, he had a huge staph infection on his leg, and he had one on his chest, and, I mean, they were painful, you know, and he had no energy whatsoever, and he just felt like he couldn't contribute to the tribe. You know, that's the only reason that he quit. He's not a quitter. I mean, but yeah, he did quit because he wanted out of the game, and he did ask us to vote for him, and no, we did not want to. But you know, pretty much when you're talking, of course, Jeff hears everything that you're saying, so that's how he knows what to ask at tribal council. So he knew that was a big thing that we were talking about at our campsite. So, of course, he's going to elaborate on that at tribal council, and just that's when he digs things out of you. So, yeah, he did ask, you know, a lot of questions about him, you know, wanting to go home, and, you know, people try every day to get on this show and, you know, don't get to go, and then actually you get put on the show and you want to quit. So, I mean, yeah, he did get a little aggravated, Jeff did, but he had no energy. So
yeah, well, that's the thing with the editing, I suppose, too, because, I mean, I think since I was spoken to, as I was saying, a couple of, you know, people like Andrew Savage, Rhino, and that about what happened, particularly with the infections that he had and that. I mean, that's something that the casual viewer might not have been aware of, Darrah, so we're glad that we can kind of bring that to light and possibly shed a bit more on Austin, and it wasn't just a case of, I just wanted to leave the game.
No, not at all.
It's always very intriguing to find out these things, because I know with you too, obviously in those first the first initial part of the game, in terms of the edit, you weren't really seen as much as you were obviously in the latter part of the game when you were dominating the challenges. Was there a lot more to your gameplay and strategy in those first few episodes that we might not have seen on camera?
I mean, yeah, they don't show a whole lot. I mean, they edit out so much, but that's the thing. I mean, of course you can kind of tell they edit people that make it towards the end. They just don't show a whole lot of them towards the beginning. I didn't really go around like plotting and trying to figure out who we were going to vote off. I pretty much, whoever everybody else was going to vote off was pretty much who I wanted to vote off. So I kind of, you know, I was in alliance with Ryan, Austin, Andrew, and Tawana. We were all in a tight alliance. So we all pretty much decided who we would vote out, and that's who we stuck with. So there really wasn't a whole lot of talking going on of who we were going to vote out. We kind of knew from week to week who was going to go out the next week if we, you know, didn't win the challenge. So, yeah, really, I mean, towards the beginning, I am a physical player, and when I'm not a mental player. I don't like to, you know, try to think of things and scam people out, because then if word gets out, then, you know, that's your butt. You're going home, you know, if you're talking about somebody. So, yeah, towards the end, I did, you know, of course, I won 3 challenges in a row. So towards the end is when I actually started showing more of me, because I was winning more things, and I was on my own.
Exactly. And it surprised me that a lot of people would say that, oh, you know, Darrah's the smallest one there, and yet she's winning these challenges. But you're obviously saying you're a very physical person. So I suppose then for yourself and your friends and your family back home watching it, it wasn't really much of a surprise that you could dominate the challenges the way you did.
No, because I have always been, I've always been a tomboy. I mean, I can do a lot of things. You know, so yeah, it really wasn't a surprise to them when they saw me winning, you know, the 3 challenges. So, yeah, that wasn't much of a shock to them.
It always interests me, though, when people kind of talk about strong physical players in the history of Survivor, particularly females. They obviously bring up people like, you know, Kelly Wigglesworth from the first season who won 4, Parvati who's won 4, Kim in the most recent season who won 4. But it surprises me that very rarely you don't get mentioned, because, I mean, as I said, you won 3 in a row. No one did that since Kelly in that first season. You would have won a 4th if that last challenge had been how it usually gone. So to me, I think that we need to start a campaign campaign, Darrah, to get you recognised as more of a strong physical threat and player in the history of Survivor. Come on.
I know, huh? I know. People just doubt me. They just don't think I guess they think as I'm a little Southern girl and I'm small and I can't do much. But that's the type that does it all.
Exactly. Well, there you go. If you ever get asked back or you go back onto another season, Darrah, like a physical season with all the dominant challenge players, you can go out there and whoop someone like Aussie's butt.
Oh, yeah. I would love to.
That would be a dream head-to-head challenge. Have you ever been asked back at all, Darrah? Would you go back to play again if you did get asked back?
Yeah, if I was asked back, I definitely would go back.
Would love to. I think a lot of people would love to see that, because obviously All Stars followed directly after the Pearl Islands, and we obviously saw only Rupert go back. So, I mean, who knows, if your season had have come a season beforehand, there might have been that potential offer on the table or something along those lines?
Oh, yeah, I know, it was kind of a shock that Rupert went back because, I don't know, they portray him a little bit more than what he really is.
We've heard that a bit.
I mean, I'm sure you probably hear that a lot. He just, I don't know, he's just more of a hollerer than anything. I mean, he's just not as, I don't know. He's not as good as everybody thinks he is. Put it that way.
We've heard that a lot. We actually did manage to chat to Rupert not too long ago. Of course, he's in the middle of running for governor of Indiana, of all things. But
I know. That's what he called it. Want to interview me about being running for mayor, but I didn't comment on. I'm not commenting on that.
It's like no comment. I will not talk about his interview. But it's interesting with Pearl Islands, because I think that obviously people, when they talk about the season, they bring up Rupert, they bring up Johnny Fairplay. But I think that you've got to remember, this is a season that, I mean, as we said, Sandra won her first of 2 games. We've got Darrah, the strong challenge competitor out there, the outcast twist. I mean, there are so many more things to Pearl Islands than just Rupert and Johnny Fairplay.
Right. Oh, yeah, there's a lot more to it. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, Burton, of course, the huge outdoorsman, I want to say he had to teach Rupert how to use the spear.
Oh, right.
To spearfish. Yeah, so he's a pretty good fisher.
There you go. I did not know that. Well, that's something that Rupert obviously highly regards himself as a good fisherman, but it's all thanks to Burton.
Oh, yeah. They make it out to look like he was the king of fishermen. But
we're learning a lot.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of ethics to that.
I'm hoping maybe some of the people of Indiana are hearing this if they want to vote for him as some sort of fisherman. We'll get to some listener questions in just a moment, Darrah, and get to these 5 questions. But before we do, we always like to get an update on our contestants of how things are going. Now, obviously, you mentioned you're no longer a mortician, you're married, you've had a child, but what else has been happening in your life since your time on Survivor?
Just being a mom. I mean, really traveling, a little bit. Being a mom and working as a hygienist. I do still have my license as a mortician, so if I ever wanted to use it, I still could. Really, I play a little softball here and there on the weekends. But that's really about it. There's really not much time to do anything when you have a 2-year-old, so.
I can definitely imagine.
Pretty much occupies your time.
I could imagine, too, that after the show, the mortician thing would be something that everybody would bring up in every interview. When was the last time you had an interview about Survivor where the word mortician wasn't even mentioned?
I know. I know. That was, I loved that job. I did. I absolutely loved it. But actually, when I came home from the show, I worked a little bit with it, but I couldn't work a whole lot at the funeral home just because I was traveling a whole lot after the show, doing charity events here and there and all sorts of things like that. So I was out of town a lot, so you really can't be away from the funeral home a lot. So that's kind of why I had to switch majors. So that's why I'm doing hygiene now.
It always seems that people on Survivor who have some sort of work related to funerals or graveyards are fairly popular. Obviously James from China, a grave digger, very popular. So, maybe they need to get more people on the show related to that industry, Darrah.
I know. I think they had one more, a lady that was a funeral director, I think. I could be making a mistake. But I cannot think of what her name was.
I can't remember anything either at the top of my head. Well, the listeners can send that in, Darrah. They can tell us who potentially that is, because it's. I suppose it's a field of work that people are just intrigued about, aren't they?
I know. They are. They're very intrigued by it.
It's always one to talk about. We'll get to these listener questions now, and of course, reminding our listeners they can send these in survivoroz@hotmail.com.au, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter to find out who we've got coming up on the show. Now, our first question, Cable Brandon of Melbourne, first of all, wants to say hello to you and said that he was hoping you would win when you went on your immunity run and believed you deserved to win, but he wants to ask, which you've kind of already answered, if you had have kept winning immunity, who would have you taken to the final two, and do you think you would have won?
Oh, yeah. I definitely would have taken Johnny Fairplay, and I know that I would have won because everybody absolutely hated him on the show, and even after the show was over, kind of just playing around and asking, who if I would have gotten votes, and pretty much it would have been a landslide. So definitely, yeah, I would have won, and he'd have came in second, but instead I came in fourth, and he came in third. So.
Yes, it's funny when we spoke to Johnny Fairplay, he was very adamant that he would have won had he have been up against Lil in that final two. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, up against Lil, he definitely would have. He would have won against Lil.
I think everyone would have won against Lil. We've
so.
established. I don't think Lil could win that game at all.
No, she was terrible, awful.
Big hello.
No way.
Big hello to Lil. We haven't spoken to Lil yet, but yeah, she's a very interesting character in the history of Survivor. Our next question, our good friend Russ Bartlett of Arlington Heights wants to know where the nickname Nubnut came down that she wrote down in the Family Visit Challenge, and also why the heck couldn't your boyfriend get a single one right?
That's funny. That is an ex-boyfriend, and he just always called me Nubnut. I mean, it was just a name he called me. It didn't mean anything, but that's just what he called me. And I don't know why he didn't. I think he was nervous. He was really nervous, so he didn't really get any of them right. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, because if we would have had an overnight by ourselves, it would not have helped me out at all. Because that's just not. You do not want to go away from campsite, away from everybody else, because that gives them the chance to say, hey, let's send her home because she won this challenge. Mm-hmm. So actually I'm kind of glad we didn't win it, but yeah, that's where that name come from, and I think he was just a little bit nervous.
That's why the relationship didn't work out, isn't it, Darrah?
Yeah, probably so.
Because you didn't get them right on Survivor. Our final question, right. Louise Zampton of Sydney in Australia asks, how disappointed were you to lose out to Amber as the sexiest female contestant ever on the All Stars reunion show?
Well, she's a pretty girl. I'm not worried about that. I mean, I get it from people around here that I was the sexiest and prettiest one from them, so that doesn't bother me. And it's funny how, they tell you don't read these sites, and, when you go home from the show, and then, of course now people send them to you, so you read them, and, people email them to me or send them to me on Facebook, and I think they're funny because people think that I have lip injections, which is hilarious. But, I mean, if you go back and look at my pictures from high school, I mean, I had lips then and I still have them.
Wow.
It's funny how people think that you just spend your money on, face stuff, I mean, I don't know. It's funny. It's hilarious.
It's interesting, the rumours.
No, she's a beautiful girl.
Yes. We're at the moment, we're actually running our first ever poll where we're trying to find out all aspects of people's opinions of Survivor. We've actually got a question asking people who they think the hottest female and the hottest male contestant in the history of Survivor are. So, look, people listening right now, if they want to right that wrong that was Amber winning that one instead of Darrah, they can vote for Darrah in our poll. And we'll send you some sort of award from Australia, some little kangaroo trophy or something like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome. I know. Australia is one of my on my bucket list to go to.
We'd like to hear that. You're always welcome. Come down to Tasmania. We'll show you some Tassie Devils. Get you and your husband out there to hold one. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We'll get to a sort of 5 Survivor-based questions, Darrah. We wrap up every single interview with all opinion-based ones. There are no right or wrong answers to these ones. Just a bit of fun. Now, we spoke a little bit about Jeff Probst before, but question number 1 is, what are 3 things you learnt about Jeff Probst during your time on Survivor?
Oh, he smiles a lot. He's very, very nice. He's a people person. And he laughs a lot.
Oh, right. There you go. See, I think that I've heard a lot from people that he's very funny, but we don't see a lot of him laughing overly much. I don't think they want to edit that Jeff's laughing too much at things.
Well, yeah, and we've hung out with him a lot too, away from this show too. So he is a very nice guy. He lived, close to Andrew, and we used to go up to Andrew's house probably twice a year before we got married and had babies and stuff like that. But he used to come over and hang out with us, and he's a funny guy.
Brilliant. Well, we're getting all these information about Jeff, so that the day that we land an interview with him, we're very well prepared. Question number 2, Darrah. In the history of Survivor, what has been your favourite season and your least favourite season?
Oh, my favorite season probably was, let's see. I can't even think of the name of it. It's the one Big Tom was
Africa?
on. Yeah, I love that one. That was probably one of my favorite seasons because Big Tom, I love Big Tom. His son Bo and I are like tight. We talk all
Brilliant.
the time. Yeah, we're really, really close. In fact, he just got married last month.
Oh, fantastic. There you go.
But, and then probably my least favorite season was probably the All-Stars, the ones right after my season. It wasn't very interesting to me. It just wasn't that good.
All-Stars does get voted a few times in that. And funny enough, with Africa, it gets voted as a favourite as well as a least favourite. You can, if you're very close to Bo, you feel free to pass on our details to him to get Big Tom on the show too. You can share the love and try and help us get Big Tom and Austin on the show. They're two people we haven't spoken to and we'd love to.
I'll definitely tell him. I will definitely tell him.
Big Tom fan as well. It's been a while since I think a few people have heard from old Big Tom. I hope he's doing well.
Oh yeah. They're a fun family.
That's good to hear. Now, question number 3, kind of going on a little bit of what we were talking about a few minutes ago, Darrah. In the history of Survivor, I know you're a married woman, but who to you is the hottest contestant in the history of the show, male or female?
Oh.
Just make sure your husband's not listening to this.
No, let me see. I'm terrible with names. He was a little country guy from Alabama.
JT?
Yes. I thought he was pretty cute.
He's actually been voted a few times, old JT. He's very popular within the ladies and certain men as well. So, yes, hello to JT. He's getting a lot of love. I'm sure he might be in the shot to win our title of sexiest male contestant ever. Who knows? Watch this space. Question number 4, Darrah. Also, in the history of Survivor, who to you is the most deserving person who has never won the game and the most undeserving winner in the history of the show?
Most deserving, I would say 2. Probably Russell, of course, and Ozzy. I would say Ozzy too. Probably the most undeserving, I would probably say...
We're making a think. We like this.
Probably... Probably, oh Lord, I am terrible with names. Who won this last season?
Kim?
Yes.
Kim, right, okay then.
Yes. I'm terrible with names, but I did watch that season. Yeah, I didn't think she should win.
And I have to ask the question, why?
I don't know. There's just so many. She was good, but there was just too many other good ones. I mean, it's like, with Survivor, you really don't know who's going to win. You really don't. I mean, it's kind of like when you go to vote. I mean, it depends on if this person's pissed off at you or if they're not. I mean, they don't really look at it like you deserve to win the game. Like, that's how it should be voted. It should be voted on, did you deserve to win this, whether you like them or not. And a lot of times it's voted on, feelings, if they're mad at you or not. So it just kind of depends.
Very true, very true. It's always interesting how people go into that final tribal council to vote. Well, our final question, Darrah, it's one you've actually already answered right at the start of the entire interview, but I'll still ask it to you again to get you to confirm your answer. Who to you in the history of Survivor is the greatest ever player of the game?
Of course, Russell Hance. I think he's probably hands down the best. I mean, he's came close every time he's played it, and people just know how he is and how he plays the game, and they know he's good at it. I mean, who finds that many immunity idols on a show? I mean, they don't tell you where they are, so people think that they kind of point them out to you. No, they don't talk. You do it on your own. That's very good to find that, because it's not hard, not easy.
Absolutely, and look, we're looking forward to the day, Darrah, that we get Russell on this show. So I'll be sure that when we do get him on, that I mention that Darrah Johnson from Pearl Islands is a very big fan.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, because I live in Louisiana now, and he's from Louisiana, so.
Nice, there you go. There's a potential future alliance for a future All-Stars season.
I know, huh?
Watch this space. Well, Darrah, has been an absolute thrill having a chat with you today. Good luck with everything in the future. Who knows, we might see you on Survivor in the future, and we'll no doubt get you back on the show one time to chat to you here on Survivor Oz.
Okay, thank you so much. Had a good time chatting.